Well, hello and welcome to another short devotion. Today we're looking at an interesting question. What does Jesus say about anxiety? You know, one of the most fascinating things that I love about the teachings of Jesus is that he many times would use things that we rarely give a passing thought about in our daily life. For example, when he said, "Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more value than they?" You ever wonder why the God of heaven and earth is now lecturing us about birds? I mean, what we see here, I believe, is what Jesus is trying to teach us is that not a lesson in laziness, but rather birds are digging their worms, they're snatching their bugs, they're padding their nests with strings and leaves. But Jesus said it is their Creator, God, that feeds them. When we look at birds, trust me, they're not waking up every day with anxiety, wondering if God is going to provide their daily needs. Rather, Jesus is trying to give us this perfect example of just one part of God's creation that goes about their work as though the sun comes up again tomorrow and God will still be God and their needs will be met regardless of the circumstances. Jesus is telling us that at some point we, as the people of God, we're going to have to take it to heart. We're going to have to take it deep in our soul that this truth, this trust that the birds have in the faithfulness of their Creator has to belong to us. That the faithfulness of God will be as good tomorrow as it is today. Another example Jesus used to hammer in this topic of being anxious. He says in Matthew 6, verse 27, "And which of you, by being anxious, can add one single hour to the span of your life?" Now, I think this statement should hit us right between the eyes. The verdict is in. Anxiety doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't do you any good. Whatever problem is causing you to feel anxious, you can be sure that your anxiety will not lessen the problem. It will only make you miserable and while you're trying to deal with it. Jesus is trying to teach us a real life-giving lesson here, friends. Having anxiety over anything is utterly useless. It offers no peace, no joy. Matter of fact, it could even take you to a dark place. And Jesus doesn't stop with birds. He now talks about flowers of all things. Jesus continues his lecture in Matthew 6. He goes, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They don't toil, they don't spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If God so clothed the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith?" When you and I look at flowers, they have no will of their own to labor, to spin, yet God has adorned them with beauty and form and color. And I believe we have to draw one conclusion as we look at this, that God delights to adorn things. He delights in adorning the flowers of the earth, that in reality they're just here today and gone tomorrow. So why can't we understand that God delights in clothing us, his children? So here's the deal, friends. Anxiety reveals and shows that there is this disconnect between you and your Father in heaven. It reveals that during the time of your anxiety, you're too close to the world and too far from God. If you honestly believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is your Lord, then why don't you rest in that? Stop being anxious. The world has nothing eternal to offer. So why don't you just settle it in your own heart and mind, and that your Heavenly Father, He knows your needs, not only now, but forever. And then find contentment in that, in any and every circumstance you find yourself in. So the main point is clear and unmistakable, that Jesus does not want followers to be anxious. You can take one thing to the bank. It's not Jesus that's keeping you in a state of worry. The more that Christ is the treasure of your heart, trust me, the less anxiety you will have. Something to think about, dear friends. Until next time, may God reveal this to you.